everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. If you are struggling to find clients online or wondering where the heck to even start, you will not want to miss today's episode. I'm here with Claire Gallagher, a lead generation strategist who helps service based solopreneurs effectively market your services and consistently attract ideal clients online without the digital overwhelm. Today, we're going to be walking you through creating your digital marketing strategy and how to show up online in a way that feels aligned without spending all of your time creating content. So, Claire, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I love hearing it from your mouth at describing describing what I do. It sounds so good. I was like, oh, that sounds great. Oh, wait, that's me.
Yeah, that's all you. So, to start, why don't you maybe give us a little bit of a deeper bio into who you are and who it is that you help?
Well, I just wanted to say that when I saw the name of like quit your job, sis, I was just
Mhm.
like, yes. Because I remember that moment when I was quitting, essentially taking that leap of faith, that big scary step. And I just wish there was somebody like just take that step. I wish there was somebody
Mhm.
there. So I love that message. Just it's just so simple. Just do it.
Yeah.
I started out, I came from a background of design communication. So I worked for
Mm.
years and years and years in design and communications agencies. And I really milked it in terms of like traveled with it and did like all of the things, the digital nomad thing. This is like scary to say, but it's like 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
I'm old. Um, that's 20 years ago now. So I was always, I lived in Australia for a while. I lived in London for a while. And then I met a lovely French guy on a dance floor in Dublin and decided that, hey, let's just go to Paris for a year so I can learn French. That was like 15 years ago and I'm still in France. So
Yeah.
I guess we're staying. But it was that moment of, like I was always kind of freelancing and really making the most of like how international visual communications was, to just kind of do the things that I always wanted to do, to travel and to like jump around to different agencies and kind of have that kind of lifestyle. But it was when we were starting our family and that kind of design agency lifestyle, it was just not going to work.
Mhm.
The kind of the overtime, the staying till 10 o'clock, which I always kind of loved that buzz. And I didn't
Yeah.
have that kind of experience of having terrible bosses or anything. I always had really good teams that I was working with and generally had a really good experience. But thinking of like starting a family and everything, working till 11 midnight, that
Mhm.
kind of thing, and a deadline, that energy and that kind of buzz to hit the deadline, which I'd always loved, that just was not going to fly
Yeah.
as a parent, you know. So that's when I started to kind of look somewhere else to see, well, what else could I be doing in this space. I'd always dreamed of working in the art world, so I quit my job, sis, and
Mhm.
um, I started working in contemporary design and art galleries around Paris, which sounds really cool, but
That
my
does sound really
God, it
cool.
was hard work. Oh my God, it was so hard. So I started like doing not digital strategy, digital product project management for galleries around Paris and their mailing lists and their websites and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And just by being in that space, it was like an amazing network to just step into. Everybody wanted a website, everybody wanted like a brand. So
Mhm.
it came to the moment that was I could do only this in terms of like what I was earning. So I took that step away from in-house freelancer. So you go in, you're on
Yeah.
a job for a certain amount of time. I stepped out of in-house freelancer and into like fully independent freelancer. And then when I had my little boy, I positioned it more as like a business rather
Mhm.
than like just taking orders as a freelancer. So that's kind of the journey as
Yeah.
how it all started.
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting and fun journey. And it's also cool to hear you say that like there was a point in time where you liked those late nights or having deadlines and kind of that buzz and that energy in your work life. But then when you wanted to start a family, you knew that wasn't going to work, right? Because I think there's such a place for that. Like right now, I'm kind of at that point in a lot of ways where like I don't have any kids. I don't really plan on starting a family in the next year or so. And I'm fine with like working a lot of hours if
Mm,
that's what I want to
yeah,
do, whether it's on my business or finishing up client work. And like, because I love what I'm doing, it doesn't at all feel the same as like working 80 hours a week when I was at a public accounting firm and like exhausted all the time, right? So I think it's like creating a business isn't necessarily about always trying to work less. I think it's
yeah,
about creating the work life that you desire. And some people love to be working late at night and traveling during the day or like whatever that schedule looks like for you. It doesn't have to be this like always this goal of like working less hours, like working as
yeah,
little as possible, right? Which I think is
yeah.
cool.
Well, it's true. It's kind of, it comes down to agency. It's like
Mhm.
I decide if I want to work 80
Mhm.
hours this week. It's me.
Yeah.
And then next Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to go for a massage and I don't
Yeah.
have to ask permission from
Yeah.
anyone. In fairness, now it's mostly dental appointments and things like that that I'm taking time off for. But,
Mhm.
in theory, it could be a massage if
Yeah.
that's how I
Yeah.
wanted to
So
roll. But it's about agency. It's like your own control of your own
yeah.
time.
In the beginning of your business, did you ever have moments where you struggled with kind of that work-life balance and balancing your family with being an entrepreneur?
I couldn't be nodding more at
Yeah.
this point. My head might actually come off. Because when I really transitioned into from in-house freelancer, order taking freelancer into like business owner,
Mhm.
I had like a baby boy hanging off my arm
Yeah.
most of the time, designing WordPress websites with one arm because he was asleep on my on the other arm. There was definitely a very, very low point. So I paint this kind of jolly picture of like, yeah, agency life and everything,
Mhm.
and wanting to, have the freedom and flexibility. Um, but it was at the stage, and we spoke very briefly beforehand about mindset, and I thought I have to go back to a job, like a day job,
Mhm.
if I don't match my salary from before.
Mm.
If I don't match my salary before, I'm failing.
Yeah.
So I was saying yes to absolutely everything, completely unsuitable projects or things that I actually didn't know how to do. And like, yeah, I'll figure this out.
Mhm.
But when you're having like 3 hours sleep a night
Yeah.
and it's not your choice because there's a little child
Yeah.
screaming their head off, um, it just becomes you're burning the candle at, I mean, if there were more than two ends, you'd be burning that as well. But I think there was definitely my little boy was about a year old, and I'd spent the first year really like maybe it essentially working the first year of his life essentially working part-time. But in the time that I was with him, I was still kind of checking emails on my phone, or just kind of, oh, I'll just do 5 minutes here, you can
Mhm.
just go play over there. And I was definitely, there was like a moment when I was editing a client's website, and it was like late at night. We were still living in Paris at the time. Now we live in the south of France, but at the time we were living in Paris, and it was late at night, and I needed to email the client and ask them a question because they hadn't chosen the image for the homepage, or
Mhm.
some like arbitrary question like that. And I was typing away at the email, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't send this now. It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Everybody is asleep. I can hear my baby asleep in the next room." And I was just like, what am I actually doing here? What
Mhm.
am I doing? Because it had come to the point that I was so determined to match my salary from before that I didn't really have a social life. I didn't have a life outside of mama and business
Yeah.
web designer person. So there was nothing else. There was no balance outside of that. I was physically in discomfort like a lot of the time from like hunching over a laptop and everything. I didn't really see my friends as much because I was
Mhm.
just too tired. And even my husband, who was like, oh, extremely supportive of all of these decisions as I went, I was like, I had no time for him.
Yeah.
And anytime he was available, I'm like, here, take the baby, I have to work.
Mhm.
So there was a real moment of like, what the hell am I doing this for? Like, why.
Yeah.
I did this for freedom and flexibility, and I actually have none of that.
Mhm.
So that was like the moment of like, I started working with coaches and mentors because I think there's there's only so much you can do alone.
Yeah. So then I'm so glad to hear you say that. And I think it's something a lot of listeners can probably relate to. Maybe they're in it right now, but also it's something that I think kind of creeps up on us, especially coming from maybe this corporate world where that's what the norm was like
Yeah.
working all the time, right? It's easy for us to fall back into those patterns. Even though we start our own business because we want more freedom and we want more flexibility, we then put ourselves in this box of like, well, I have to hustle and I have to be working
Yeah.
24/7 if in order to create that freedom and flexibility. But if that's your mindset, then there's always going to be more that you could be doing in your business, right? And you just end up,
Yeah.
I think, getting stuck working all the time and maybe not even really having the income to show for it, you know? So once you
Exactly.
started
Yeah.
working with mentors and working with coaches, how did they kind of help you move into a place where you did have that balance between your business and your social life and your family?
Well, it wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like that night when I was like editing a website at 2 a.m. and like, when, what the hell am I doing? It took maybe another 2 or 3 years to
Mhm.
actually find some kind of stability, making the money that I wanted, but also like not working evenings and weekends, like
Mhm.
only working like a set hours and then go, okay, day's over.
Yeah.
It was, it's that, I mean, my first coach, I was really frustrated because everything she was telling me, I was like, well, of course.
Mhm.
It was also obvious, but it was about doing less better.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's something that I've held on to for this whole time. So that was like, my boy's 9 now. So that was like 8 years
Mm.
ago. Um, it's about doing less better, and it's the kind of the conversation that we started together. It's about having aligned action and
Yeah.
really focusing on aligned action and not saying yes to everybody who says, can you make me a flyer, can
Mhm.
you make me a logo, and just like competing on price with people overseas who have a lower cost of living. um Not competing with that, but instead really standing in your own, I hate to use the word brand here, but it's brand.
Yeah.
To stand in your own brand, because that is the thing that differentiates you. And if you if you have the opportunity to do work on a really aligned brand, that kind of filters into everything that you do. So I mean, I was making brands and websites for people and I could do it for others. It was just really, really difficult
Mhm.
to do it for myself and to kind of go, oh, I know the rules here, but I'm just gonna, I'm gonna have several ideal clients, or
Yeah.
I'm going to have multiple different offers, when I knew that wasn't um, good advice. Like, so yeah, working with coaches and mentors, it was just, it was holding up that mirror and saying the most obvious things repeatedly
Mhm.
so that it actually went in. Like, you know, that advice that you give everybody, you should take that
Yeah.
advice. And it just like, oh damn it, I'm paying you for this.
Well, that's
But yeah,
sometimes the value of having a coach, right? Is like it's not
yeah,
necessarily that they're telling you something revolutionary, but for
yeah.
whatever reason, you haven't been listening to your own advice and you need somebody else to say it to you.
It's so true. But it's, we do get and this comes up for so many people who start their own business, because we're at a time where there is so much information available to
Mhm.
us, so much great content online, like fantastic podcasts, courses, coaches, freebies, Instagram accounts that can just really teach you so much. But it's that focus by having a mentor or a coach that says, okay, I'm listening to you and what you need and
Mhm.
what aligns with your personality, your temperament, your energy, your available time. And you can stop listening to everyone
Yeah.
and start listening to yourself, because
Yeah.
it's so easy to just be pulled in so many different directions, whereas you have actually all the answers. And maybe it's a matter of doing less, and a matter of stopping quite a lot of other things that actually don't serve your business or serve you.
Yeah, I love that so much. Would you say that there was a mindset component for you where, because I think a lot of us have this idea that the only way to make more money is to work harder or work more
Yeah.
hours, right? Do you think there was a mindset shift there, that kind of clicked for you, where you realized, well, maybe there's a way for me to reach this income goal that I have that doesn't require me to be working at 2 a.m.?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, and we could talk for
Yeah.
hours about this. But it's value-based pricing.
Mhm.
It's value-based pricing. Like, Christo, the future guy, he's a mentor for
Mhm.
creatives. He has a great resource on value-based pricing that you can find on YouTube. And it's something that my coach at the time was telling me, that you're not working for 100 euros an
Yeah.
hour. You are creating something that's going to help your client earn 100,000,
Mhm.
and your solution should be at least 10% of
Yeah.
that. So it's like, oh, I see.
Mhm.
I'm creating business tools, not websites and designs. I'm creating things that are going to help them to earn
Yeah.
money. And that's like it's that kind of, you it's like, cannot unlearn that.
Mhm.
There's no way you can charge by the hour and have that be scalable, unless you're charging like 10,000 an
Yeah.
hour or something
Yeah.
like that. But there's an awful lot of reputation and credibility required to charge that much. But the value-based pricing, and it makes it so easy to sell as well, because I was always terrible at selling. I don't know if there's any like designers and creatives out there listening,
Mhm.
but um, because we love what we do, and we kind of almost don't want to admit how many hours we put into
Yeah.
something, because you're going for a walk and you're thinking about it for an hour. You're not charging for
Mhm.
that. You're learning a whole new skill set to do this project. You're not charging for that. But it's that kind of almost guilt at asking to be paid for something that you're extremely passionate
Yeah.
about. I don't know if that makes
No,
sense,
it
but
does, and I know
it's
there
it's a it's a it's a mindset
and yeah,
shift.
I know there are people listening who resonate with that, because I felt the same way too. I mean, I don't know that I describe myself as a creative, but it was like when I first started doing coaching, right? I remember feeling like this is something that I love, that I'm passionate about, that comes so naturally to me, and it feels weird for me to ask somebody to pay me for that.
Mm.
So I
Well, this is it. You found something that was totally
yeah.
aligned with your temperament, your character, and your most. This is something that I talk about a lot. Your most valuable
Mm,
contribution. What can I do? What comes so naturally to me? What brings me into a state of flow where everything just works and makes sense, and I love it, and time goes by and I don't even notice. And it's like, that's a really aligned kind of service offering, aligned with yourself. And it's like, and I need to ask for money
yeah.
now, otherwise it's a hobby.
Yeah, well, I think,
Because if you're not getting paid, it's a
a
hobby.
lot of something I hear all the time is like, I don't have a passion, or I don't have any skills that people could pay me for. And I think pretty much every single time what it comes down to isn't that you don't have any skills or you don't have something you're passionate about. It's that you don't think you can turn that thing into a business. You don't think people will
Yeah.
pay you for it, or it comes so naturally to you that you're not even thinking about it in terms of like it's an actual skill that you have, right? Um
That is
yeah.
crazy. It's so true. And it's so crazy. Like, I work with a lot of like service-based businesses, like yourself, and I work with creatives, like designers and copywriters, and people who create
Mhm.
things. And creativity becomes so naturally to them that they don't realize how powerful that is, and how important that is, and how valuable it
Yeah.
is to people who
Mhm.
aren't that creative. Because it's just like, I'll fill a page with ideas in 5 minutes, and somebody who has a completely different, zone of genius will be stuck on one idea, and you know they don't. It's only when you put it into sharp contrast, and when you start working with people as well, that you realize, huh, that was easy for
Yeah.
me, but difficult for others. But like, I speak to creativity because that's my
Mhm.
background, but it's true of, it could be the most unexpected of things as
Yeah,
well.
definitely. I think that's something that people get stuck on, but I didn't think we would talk about figuring out your niche or your what you're going to offer
Well,
here, but there you go. If
here we
that's
are.
where you're stuck. um so I know you are a lead generation strategist, right? So you focus on helping service providers get clients primarily online. So walk us through
Yeah.
that process. Like when you start working with a client, what is it that you walk them through in order to figure out a marketing strategy that makes sense for them?
So the kind of the backbone of what I do is creating a path. So very, very standard marketing stuff. And like lead generation is exactly what
Mhm.
it is, but I hate the word lead. It kind of
Yeah.
dehumanizes people. So just
Yeah.
throwing that out there to say I'm not a horrible person. um, so the path involves attraction, engagement, conversion, and then after the fact, retention and advocacy. But let's look at attract, engage, convert as like the
Mhm.
steps to having people find out about you and then having them become a paying client. So, attraction is all things visibility, all things showing up, all things marketing. So, how you show up and where you show up is decided by who you wish to serve.
Mm.
Who you wish to serve is the person, like as they call an ideal client. And I'm deeply nerdy about defining the ideal client and having that be a real human being and not some kind of creative writing exercise
Mhm.
avatar. So, the very root of all things, all of the decisions, every decision, like I can say that for an hour and still I want to say it more. Every decision comes from who you wish to serve. So, the person that you wish to serve needs what you have and is willing and able to pay for it.
Mm.
So, simple as that, needs what you have, is willing and able to pay for it. And after that, it's you can genuinely help them. And the real key to it all is empathy and really deep listening. So you can survey people, you can do questionnaires, but the real juicy stuff comes out in genuine conversations. So my recommendation to everybody that I work with is to speak to at least 5 people. Find out how they speak to the problem. Find out why that is a problem for them, what they've tried, where they spend time online, and really tuning into their vocabulary of how they describe it, how they
Mm.
speak about it, because that's going to be your messaging, your communications, where they like to spend time online. That's going to define your social media strategy. What they've tried, that's going to define any additional marketing that you do. So people don't just search on social media. So there's a kind of an assumption that Instagram equals marketing, but that's like the most
Yeah.
narrow version of it. Um, so I can speak all day and night about ideal client, but that's the heart of it. Really kind of digging deep and understanding, because these people will tell you exactly what you need to do to find them and build trust with them, build a relationship, and get them as clients. So when I work one on one with my strategy coachees, that's our very very first step, and we go deep. I have a set of questions that I help them to like make their own, so that these conversations are actually genuine and natural and caring and based in empathy. So ideal client, taking time with them after we've figured out where they spend time online and how they seek to solve their problem, that basically becomes the rough outline of your marketing
Mm.
plan. Um, and and this is where I think the path metaphor is really, really important. I often speak about, now I might be showing my age, like that, there's one of the Indiana Jones movies, and there's like a rope
Yeah.
bridge going across a
Yeah.
canyon. Do you know the one I'm talking about? And there's like crocodiles down below, and there's like bad guys on one side, and it's all pretty hairy. It's all like broken,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
little planks are kind of old and broken. So just keep that image in mind, and that's your sales process. So your
Quite the
your
metaphor.
ideal clients are one side. Yeah, your ideal clients are on one side, and there's, I think, I don't know. Let's ditch Indiana Jones, but there's something on the other
Yeah.
side that they need to get to. So that's the problem that they wish to solve. They need to know that they're on the right bridge. They need to know that they are
Mm.
safe and they are not at risk, and they're going in the right direction. So any part of your sales process that is broken or unfinished or doesn't have meaning for them, they're falling down to the crocodiles, or the bad guys get them. Well, bad guys, I don't want to say that your competitors
Yeah.
are bad guys, but you know, if you're a genuine service provider and you're there to help, that's kind of simple metaphor. So, like, just with that in mind, like, your sales process involves visibility, engagement, then is like trust and credibility building. And then the conversion then is like they're safe, they're all the way to the other side, and they just step over to the other side because they've made their decision with you. So, this whole sales process is a decision making process for
Mm.
them. They find out about you in whatever way that they're spending time, that they seek to solve their problem. So you're doing some of that so they know how to get on the bridge. Your process after that, you're making sure that all of those wooden boards are safe, they're tight. You're making sure that it's not rocking too much. You're making sure they're not, falling down into the crocodile. So making that into a more tangible thing, it's just say, for example, like everybody asks me about search
Mhm.
engine optimization. If you know for sure that people are Googling it, that's work that you need to do. So they Google it, they get onto your website. You need to be building trust and credibility. So what can you be doing on your website that builds trust and credibility? Using their words, using their language, having social proof there, having a website that's not all gross
Mhm.
and buggy and out of date and works on mobile. Obviously, that's a credibility factor as well. And then having a call to action. So that call to action is that moment where a complete stranger expresses interest in what you've got, what you're selling, what you're doing, and becomes a lead. So that's when the moment where a stranger becomes a lead. And people sometimes forget about calls
Yeah.
to action, or they have 25 calls to action
Mhm.
and people get overwhelmed and then just go, holy crap, I
Yeah.
prefer the crocodiles. So just kind of bearing in mind that sales process. If you've got broken links, if you've got a crappy website, if your website is got confusing messaging, or there's too many calls to action, it's just you're not building trust and credibility there, and they're not going to get all the way to a sales call. They're not going to get all the way to the other
Mm.
side of that bridge. I feel like I talked for about
No,
25
it was
minutes
all
there.
good
Sorry.
though. And that metaphor works very well. So I think it's a good visual from a
Thank you.
visual people. Going back to the ideal client, as you said, like that is the most important piece because all the decisions you make are based around your ideal client. And I imagine there are people listening who are like, well, I have no idea who my ideal client is. So,
Mm.
how or what tips do you have for people who are struggling to narrow down who exactly their ideal client is?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there's a lot of kind of confusion and overlap around, is it ideal client?
Mhm.
Is it niching? Is it, what is this exactly? This is what I try to avoid terms like branding, marketing, lead generation, and I just kind of use this rope
Yeah.
bridge thing because it's like there's so much of all
Yeah.
of that in there. Um but your ideal client is, it's literally somebody who you can genuinely help. So the service, like you're talking about, your most aligned and valuable contribution is the coaching that you do. You know that you have something to offer. It's about finding that overlap between what you are passionate and skilled and really aligned in offering, and who really
Mhm.
needs that. What is the problem that you're helping to solve? So basically your niche is the problem that you're helping them to solve, and where they are in their journey of solving it. So for example, you might help new businesses to get set up and get those first clients. So that's kind of a broad circle of like who your niche is. If you're niching down even further, it might be people in a certain
Mhm.
industry who want to get their first clients. If you want to niche down even further, people in a certain industry who have one really
Yeah.
specific problem to solve. So it comes down to the problem that you're helping people
Mm.
to solve. And then if you're real if you're really, really new in this, I would definitely encourage just to get the reps in, like exercise, coach some people if it has to be low cost or free, just to kind of find out, well, where am I going with this? Because you can, like, I mean, I never advocate for people
Yeah.
working for free, but this is
Mm-hmm.
market research essentially. You're doing the work, you're getting the reps to say, well, okay, I could really, really help that person. That was great. And then this other person, I was sure I could help them, but it actually didn't go
Mm-hmm.
well at all. So by getting those reps, you're kind of really starting to understand what unique problem, not unique, sorry, what specific problem that you're helping people to solve, and where are they in their journey of solving it. So obviously that looks entirely different from one person to the next, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
demographics, it's not age, it's not gender even. Sometimes it can be, but it's not that, what their
Yeah.
favorite TV shows are. It's not that kind of fun exercise which we all enjoy, but it's that specific area that they need your unique expertise in
And
solving
so,
it.
for someone who's struggling to narrow down their ideal client, would you recommend that they, like, okay, if you can't figure out your niche or you can't narrow down your ideal client, just start broad and then from coaching people, you'll
Mm.
figure it out? Or do you recommend that they just choose something just to get started with? Because you can always change. I mean, your business is going to change, right? And once you get started, you might realize, oh, I actually don't love doing this type of work or working with this specific
Yeah.
client. And going from there, what would your recommendation be for someone who's feeling stuck in that place?
I would get it's a really, it is a problem area because if you don't do this work, again, the decisions, and it just becomes
Mm-hmm.
meaningless because you're trying to
Yeah.
speak to too many people. But like the, I feel like the answer to all of
Yeah,
my
it
questions is
usually
it
is.
depends. So it depends. It depends on your situation. Either if you need to be making money.
Mm,
I mean, just speaking from like really acknowledging
yeah.
privilege. I mean, I live in France. I was able to step into freelance and then self-employment quite easily because
Mm-hmm.
there was support there from the government to help me to do that. I'm from a family who, if I ever did slip
Yeah.
through the cracks, there's somebody there to catch me. So acknowledging
Mm-hmm.
privilege massively here, to know that I had a safety net at all times. So it depends on really where you are financially as well. If you can take 6 months and move home or whatever that is, and to just kind of work low cost or free, it's I mean, it's not the wrong answer, it's not the right answer. There is no correct way of finding
Mm,
out what your thing is, but not starting is the
yeah.
real problem. Like thinking about it, journaling about it, saying at parties, yeah, I'm going to do this
Mm-hmm.
thing. But like knowing that you'll be okay, there's real freedom in that. If you will be okay, you can take those risks. You can go and you know, uh, be mentored by somebody by working
Yeah.
for them for free, or um, offering your services for low cost or free, for like, put a time bracket on it as well, because you're not
Yeah.
endlessly going to be doing this. You need to measure it and at some point make a decision.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm doing this now. But it's like there's a part of it is like, well, how do you find
Mm-hmm.
inspiration? At what moment will you be inspired?
Yeah.
And it's by doing the work. I really feel like it's by doing the work and tuning in to your gut instincts and really listening to
Mm.
yourself there. And that's where lead generation strategy comes down to mindset. And
Yeah. Yeah, I
self-awareness.
think that's huge and I love that advice. So moving more into social media marketing specifically, I know this is something people struggle with and figuring out what platforms to be on, how many times a
Mhm.
day or a week do you need to be posting, right? So how do you help your clients figure out where they need to be on social media? And how do you show up consistently on social media without driving yourself completely insane?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the struggle is real. The struggle is very real when it comes down to social media because it is this
Mhm.
amazing opportunity. Now, again, showing my age here, when I started out, it
Yeah.
was just Facebook, and maybe LinkedIn was
Yeah.
for, old men in suits, old white guys in suits. So 20 years ago, we didn't really have that to the same extent. I sound about a million years old.
Well, it wasn't that long ago though,
But
like, social media really has blown up
yeah,
only in the past few years in the grand scheme of, businesses being a thing,
yeah.
right?
Hmm. But it's also the case that, like, if you think about it, like, people did
Right,
business
yeah.
before social media existed, and it
Yeah.
was going on for quite a while. So this kind of comes back to it. It might seem like an odd connection, but it comes down to your goals and how quickly you need results and how visible you're
Mm,
prepared to be. So, my own coach is always telling me never market more than
mm,
you network. So, marketing in all its shapes and forms, social media being only one of them, it should play like understudy to your networking. And networking, it doesn't mean standing in a role in a
yeah.
room and drinking bad coffee and things like that. It's like connecting, collaborating, finding people who have an audience and tuning into uh, uh, sorry, finding people who have an audience of
Right,
people
yeah.
who you wish to serve, so like similar audiences, and kind of check out how they're doing their thing, and noticing, is this something that I'd like to do? Is this something that I really, in terms of the
Mm,
life that I want to live, posting twice a day? Because all of those super specific formulas, they're sold every day for
yeah.
$27 as a course and things like that. And the course is not completed and the results are not seen. So, like, all that just to say, making connections with real
Mm,
people is where it's at. Doing that with collaborations, if you're jumping into somebody else's audience and guesting on
yeah.
their podcast, for example, networking with people in that way, it's just, we're humans. We appreciate human connection. So always remembering that you can use social media
Mhm.
as a way to be social and be an advocate for a competitor, collaborate with a competitor, look at somebody whose opinion you don't agree with, and have a conversation with them, or like, it comes down to networking in a way that
Mm,
aligns with your temperament. So if you're not somebody who's going to be opening a YouTube channel anytime soon, if you're not somebody who's going to show up and do silly
yeah.
reels, I actually love doing silly reels, but so that's my thing. I do that as a fun thing, as part of my business, but it's
Mhm.
all about connection and building relationships, like, in
Yeah,
online
I think
and
that's
offline.
such a good point. And even for people who are new in their business, right? Or maybe you don't have your own following yet, you don't really have an audience
Hmm.
on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or wherever. There's so much power in, like you said, kind of leveraging somebody else's audience who already has those eyes of your ideal client and who you're trying to reach, and just networking with them, connecting with them, and then saying, hey, I know that you have a podcast, and here's a topic that I could really speak to that I think your audience would get value from, right? Like, and then you're all of a
Hmm.
sudden in front of hundreds of people who you don't have in your own audience. So it could also be a really effective way
Yeah.
in the beginning to build your own audience. And it's something that's probably
Yeah.
the number one thing that, like, if I could go back 3 years and tell myself something from when I was first starting my business, it would be leverage other people's audiences. Like, yes, now I have built my
Absolutely.
own, and it's still growing every day. But like at the time, I had maybe 200 Instagram followers, and that's all I had. So I think I could have grown a lot more quickly if I had taken on that strategy earlier in my business, for sure.
Yeah. It's also, it comes down to, when you say, like, when we start looking at
Hmm.
numbers of, like, how many followers, and there's there's an aspect of that. There's a tipping point there between, is it a credibility factor? So we're looking at, like, specifically speaking about social media in your marketing, it's like, is it at the attraction stage? Is it how people find you? Or is
Mm,
it at the engagement stage? They've found out about you because they found you on a Google, they found you on a Google search and a blog post that you've written,
yeah.
and they've gone like, well, who is this chick? And then they check out your whatever your main social channel is, and if they've liked your content, if you're saying the things that get them nodding and go like, she gets it, oh my god, she gets it, if you're saying things and showing up in a way that they feel connected to you before having spoken to you, at that stage it's not about the number of followers that you have, it's about the impact
Mhm.
that you're having with your content. So it's taking it, social media, as a visibility device, and making it as an engagement, credibility, and trust building and
That's such a
relationship
good
building
point,
device.
and actually just kind of gave me a different perspective on my own business because I feel like, I mean, a lot of people find me from the podcast and then they start following me on social media. So even right there, it's like the podcast is more so where they become aware of me. And then, Instagram is where I can really engage with them. But even like
Yeah,
I feel like for me, TikTok is now becoming more of a visibility piece where that's how people are finding me. And just
yeah,
the way the algorithm works on there, I'm able to get in front of so many more people than I have on my podcast or on Instagram or any other platform. But
yeah.
then a lot of them will come and follow me on Instagram, and that's where I can really engage with
Mm-hmm.
them. And so it is like I never really thought of it that way, but that's kind of how I've been using one social media platform differently than another, right? Because for me, TikTok is more about
Yeah.
visibility and awareness, and Instagram and like my Facebook group and my email list is more about actually engaging and nurturing that audience after they have found me. Mhm.
100%, like starting conversations, actually starting conversations,
Yeah.
seeing the same names, like your stuff, seeing the same names
Mhm.
comment, and you're going, oh, hey,
Yeah.
there he is again. Hi, Sarah. And that's how, like, I mean, I've made friends
Oh
with
yeah.
people
Yeah.
through various social channels, and
Yeah.
we're business buddies now, and we're in the same mastermind groups and things like that. But there's an aspect of it as well that, I mean, I hate to admit it, but when I see a large following,
Mhm.
it's a credibility factor.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody's got 100,000 or like a million followers, there's a certain assumption that they're in some way
Mhm.
established, well known, trusted. So there's that, but there's a moment there where it's like you can lose a lot of time chasing vanity metrics, because these platforms are all
Yeah.
designed to be addictive. They're designed to give you that little, oh, there's a
Mhm.
red dot, who's liked my thing, ooh, there's a message. um and it's like they're designed to kind of keep you there. And it's again self-awareness of how much of this is actually moving the needle, how much of this is actually bringing me people or warming up an audience. So it's just, you have to really be careful there to not just be
Yeah. I mean,
chasing
there are
vanity
plenty of people who
metrics.
have a large following, but they don't have a large business because it's not just about getting people in your space. You also
Mm,
have to have something valuable to offer them and know how to communicate that value and really nurture them, right? So that's something that I
yeah.
always from the beginning I feel like I was very clear on where I'm like, I don't really care how many followers I have because I care more about the connections that I'm building with the followers that are already here, you know? Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
And have you
100%.
seen any specific types of content or strategies that work really well for service providers on social media?
Yeah, it's getting people
Hmm.
off social media and getting them onto your mailing list. Or getting them
Hmm.
onto your mailing list, or getting them onto a call, like depending how direct you're able to do it in terms of how much time you have available. But it's using social media as a
Mm.
way to get that next step, to start that conversation. So strategy wise, it'll always
Yeah.
depend on who your ideal client is, what they need to hear and see from you in order to trust you and understand what you actually do. And then to kind of that call to action, that kind of the step from follower or audience member to officially a lead when they've expressed an interest, signed up for a freebie or a webinar, or said in the comments of a kind of a public
Yeah.
ask, I want this. It's about whatever content or format you're using. It's about that moment where it comes away from social media, because unless your business is social
Yeah.
media and growing, I don't know, having paid content or something, unless it is your business, you need to
Yeah.
get them out of there. You need to get them out of there, and into your like CRM system or onto your calls list or into your even your mailing list, and there's some way
Mm-hmm.
for you to follow up with nurture or something like that. So this is all broad stroke stuff. I don't like to get super specific,
Yeah.
because it depends on the individual and the kind of the specific ideal client that they're working towards. But definitely using social media for either visibility or engagement or both, and then getting them out of there and getting them to kind of to start seeing you as the service
Yeah.
provider that they want to
I don't know
work
if you
with.
can hear this ambulance that's driving by my apartment.
There's an ambulance.
I don't
I
think
hope it's
so,
not coming
but
for you.
okay.
She talked about marketing too much.
What advice do you have for those who are maybe introverted or just afraid of showing up online, especially on social media? I know this is a big pain point for a lot of people.
That it really is. So there's one thing that I speak about all of the time.
Yep.
Guess what? It's about your ideal client. Um, no, but like more specifically for if you are, I mean, you can be a loud introvert and love showing up online. Like Chris Do talks about that all the time. God, I sound like a Chris Do super fan here. But if you're not somebody who wants to really show your face or do the video content that everybody's always like encouraging you to do, there's a little mindset shift that I always speak about. And it's that kind of, it can be sometimes just that little tweak, that little coaching moment that kind of changes everything. And it's that it's not about you. It's not about you at all. People don't
Hmm.
really care if your hair is done that day. People don't really care if you actually your mascara was smudged or whatever, or if it's a piece of content that didn't inspire them. It's not about you, it's how you are
Yeah.
of service to others. So that definitely, I mean, it took me a while.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been doing videos for like 10 years, so, and like I've been through
Yeah.
the kind of red face sweaty moments doing live Facebook lives back in the day. But as soon as I realized it actually is nothing. It's not about me. Yes, it'd be good if people liked me and saw me as like a subject matter expert or whatever way you want to phrase it, but it's not about you. It's about how you are of service to others, and especially if you're in any kind of caring or therapeutic or health service, or you're helping people to step into their dream life or their dream
Hmm.
business or to quit their job. It's you are of service. You're bringing somebody this transformation that you know is important. And as soon as you kind of put that front of mind when you're creating content or showing up, it just
Yeah.
makes it takes the spotlight off you. And as an introvert, I think
Yeah, that's
that's
a
a
really
useful
good tip
device.
for anyone who is feeling afraid of showing up online, and it's something that I always remind myself of even now, because sometimes I'll record a video and then I'm like thinking about, okay, I know that this person follows me and I don't really feel great about them seeing this, but like it's really not about what this person thinks of me at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I often say, like your sales process and your
Mm,
visibility, it's your first act of service for people. It's your first act of service to people. And if you are genuinely out there to help people, it's
Yeah.
it's it's really not about you. Yes, your uncle is going to comment and you're going to feel embarrassed, or somebody that you went to school with, and you're like, oh
Mhm.
no. But it's not about them either. It's about the people
Yeah,
who you're helping to bring this
absolutely.
transformation
Okay,
to.
I know we're coming up on time. I could talk about this forever, but I have two final questions for you. One, if you
Me too.
could, I guess, quickly give us what are some of the most common mistakes that you see people making when it comes to their digital marketing? You're like, how much
Yeah,
time do we have
too many
left?
things, doing too many things. How many things? And too many things, too many things. Okay, so there's oh my god, no, really, there was too many things. Okay, so one of them is
Mhm.
wanting everything perfect before you launch. So you can't know everything before you start. There's absolutely no way you can know what's going to work until you run a few experiments. So trying to get like
Yeah.
perfect is a kind of a bad word in my house as well. But um trying to get it all kind of lovely and spending a lot of money on branding and websites before you've
Mhm.
served any clients, huge mistake. You need to serve some clients, understand what their whole vibe is, and you create
Yeah.
everything for them. So that's thing one. The thing two
Mhm.
is definitely trying to do too many things. So I work specifically with solo service based businesses. So people who are not working with a team, they maybe don't even have a VA or like a business partner. They're just, it's 100% solo. They're working, wearing all of the hats, as they say. So your visibility, your marketing, your sales, your systems, your admin, and then you have to be serving your clients as well if you're like a one-on-one service or a creative service. So providing the service, I often say it's 40 to
Mhm.
50% max of your business. Like the whole thing that you're, this whole machine is designed to just
Yeah.
be doing this maybe 40% of the time. So having an aligned strategy, knowing your ideal client, knowing where they show up, knowing how they seek to solve their problem, base all of your decisions on that research, instead of just doing SEO because
Mhm.
you read a blog post that said you should, running webinars because some ad on a social media channel told you this
Yeah.
is the magic bullet formula that's gonna skyrocket your blood blue. So kind of take all of that stuff with a pinch of salt. Like if the word should is in there, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, you can kind of tweak that in kind of, I choose to do this specific thing because I know this is what my ideal clients are
Mm.
doing to solve their problem. That's what they
Yeah.
need blog posts. I'm going to do blog posts. They need video tutorials. I'm going to do video tutorials because as a business owner, a whole load of stuff is going to get advertised to you. And as soon as you are aligned with your ideal client and your own temperament, you can go,
Mm.
yeah, that's a great idea. It's not for me. And you can kind of drop all of that stuff. But trying to do all of the things that you read about online,
Yeah.
you're on the fast track to burn yourself out there because your marketing is only one part of your business. Your lead generation and your sales and your delivering of your service and all of the other
Mm.
things also need your attention.
No, that's good.
Oh man, there's too many, but I'm going to
And
stop there.
then my
There's
last
too many
question I
more things.
have for you is any final advice that you have for the woman listening who is about to take that leap into entrepreneurship?
Oh, oh wow, that could be a whole other hour. Um, there's something that came up in a conversation with not my current coach, but a previous coach, and she's like, "Well, why do you do what you do? Why have you
Mhm.
still done it? I've had good years, I've had bad years, I've had trying to look
Yeah.
after two kids, and my husband has a busy corporate job times, and it was all like, what am I doing here?" Um, remember why you're doing this, and remember that life is too short
Mm.
to have mostly bad days. If you're finding that, okay, so if you're talking about like leaving your job because you're having just a terrible time, life is too short to have mostly bad days. If your business is being unkind to you,
Yeah.
You are your own boss. You would quit if this a boss was treating you in this way. Life is too short to have mostly bad days, so make sure you're having good days. And because you're in charge. You're the one running the show and you're the one who
Mm,
gets to decide if
I
you're going to
love
have a
that
good day
advice.
or not.
Yes,
Privilege
yeah.
acknowledged
I love that
massively
advice
there.
though. I literally just wrote that quote down because I know I'm going to use it somewhere. All right, Claire, where can the listeners find you if they want to get connected with you or work with you? And also if you have any resources that you wanted to share.
I can be found on clairecreative.com. If you go to clairecreative.com, there's a button at the top that says free stuff. And there's a digital strategy template there that has helped a load of people to just kind of
Mm-hmm.
start to get clarity on this kind of stuff. So, digital strategy is this abstract word phrase that kind of
Yeah.
people are like, I don't know really what you're talking about, Claire. My mother's like, I still don't know what you do, Claire. But it's basically I help solo service based businesses to show up online, connect with their ideal clients so that they get a steady flow of leads and a consistent, scalable income. So there's a bit of branding, marketing, web stuff, email marketing, social media. It all depends on who you're trying to reach and what they're up to. So clairecreative.com, there's a template there and you'll be on my mailing list to get access to all of a bunch of other
Okay,
free
amazing.
resources
I
as I
will link
create
that
them.
in the show notes for you guys. Claire, thank you so much again for coming on. This was such a good conversation. So many good tips for the solopreneurs or future solopreneurs listening. So thank you again.